Serious, police officers of Reddit, have you ever arrested someone you know? Just curious as to whether anyone has been called to a scene and ended up taking a family member or friend into custody, and what was the reason/crime? I stopped a guy for drinking in public, and when I ran his license I noticed that he lives in my apartment building. Luckily he didn't have any warrants, and I decided to give him a warning instead of arresting to avoid any conflicts at home. 2 days later I saw him leaving the building, and the girl he was with called me by my first name. I haven't figured that one out yet. Yes. Arrested my sister for DUI. Makes the holidays more than a little uncomfortable. I'd do it again if given the exact same circumstances, and knowing what I know now. So as part of a former job, I was required from time to time to drop off criminals to a short-term incarceration facility. Well, one time as I was dropping off a few guys, there was a trustee working behind the counter who looked familiar, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. He's given me the same look, and as I'm processing the dudes in, he asks me if my name is the officer. I say yes, and suddenly it dawns on me. I played high school football with him. Turns out, he had been arrested several times, including robbery, and was now here. I ended up running out of non-awkward chit-chat and said, so I guess you won't be going to the 10-year reunion. My neighbor/close family friend pulled over his sister once as well. It was like a week before Halloween, and she was driving after drinking and failed the test. She had her license suspended. Well, next week, we are about to throw a Halloween get-together and invited them, because our families were close on a multi-generation level. Well, neighbor cop is there, and so is his sister. They are sitting in the corner having some form of heated discussion in hushed tones. This is the first time they have spoken in a week, and out of nowhere you just hear neighbor cop scream, because the law, Karen. You broke it. Well, at that point, my uncle was on beer number 4, and just goes, yeah, Karen. I thought it was hilarious, as did others. Karen not so much. I'm far too late for this to matter, but my dad has made this story a lesson for me growing up. My dad was in high school and made fun of a lot of people, apparently. One time him and his best friend, both high school football jocks, were visiting back home in their small town. He likes to speed when he can, or at least did, so he was pulled over. Cop comes up to the window and sees it's my dad, his high school bully, and can't wait to write him a hefty fine, but then sees his best friend in the car. My dad's best friend was a year older, QB of the football team, but also the kindest man you'd ever meet. Only for the fact the cop saw my dad's best friend that they were let off. He always tells me kindness gets you everywhere since that moment. If it weren't for his friend being in the car, he probably would have continued to be, and without realizing that the past catches up with you one day, and I wouldn't be who I am without that moment. Worked at a sheriff's department. Had a call of a domestic dispute. Officers arrived, took suspect into custody for raping a female. Guy was one of my best friends in high school. I honestly still to this day don't think he did it. The female was known for screwing around on her husband while he was at work. She got caught doing it and said she was raped. I had to do my job regardless what I thought was the truth. I felt horrible for it, but he understood. We still talk from time to time. A friend of mine got pulled over for speeding, and the cop who came up to the window was a guy he went to school with. The cop says, "What is your excuse, man?" He says, "What?" The cop says, "I need a good excuse, man. I got the sergeant in the car with me. I can't just let you off." He couldn't think of one and just said, "Write me a ticket, man." My dad is a police officer, and he once arrested my mom when she didn't stop at a red light. Had to go to the police station and file her crime. Needless to say that his colleagues, who also know her of course, laughed their off as my dad explained my mother's rights to her.